Madison Rayne versus Tessa Blanchard versus Britt Baker versus Chelsea Green. Welcome back to the ACB Wrestling Talk channel, your main source for wrestling news, topics, discussion, debate, previews, all that kind of good stuff. I am your host, Alexis Carrillo, and All In is getting closer and closer and closer, and this September 1st, Saturday night, it's going to take place in Chicago, Illinois, and one of the matches on the card is, of course, a women's match. It's going to be a four-way match involving Madison Rayne, Britt Baker, Chelsea Green, and Tessa Blanchard. Now, I'm going to list these outcomes from least likely to happen to most likely to happen, at least from my stance, at least from my opinion on who I think is going to come out the winner. Now, in the number 4 spot is Madison Rayne. Now, I'm not saying Madison Rayne is the worst performer of this match. I'm not saying she is the least popular or anything like that. I'm not trying to put Madison Rayne down. All I'm trying to say is that Madison Rayne today, in the wrestling business today, is not as big or not as, as much of as the most talented performer as she was maybe a few years ago. For example, her run in 2010 and 2011 as a Killer Queen at Impact Wrestling. Back then, she was one of the highlights of women's wrestling back then. But today, we saw it at Slammiversary. She was, very few people thought she was actually going to come out with the title. She's currently in the Mae Young Classic. And, for this match, at All In, I do not think Madison Rayne is walking out the winner of this match. So, following that up, I've got to go with Chelsea Green. Now, Chelsea Green is someone, if you've been following Impact Wrestling for the past 2 years, you've known as Laurel Van Ness. And Chelsea Green is someone who was starting to gain some traction. She had become Knockouts champion at Impact Wrestling, and then out of nowhere, out of the blue, asked for her release, possibly, and this was speculated, looking to not only try out for WWE, but also getting a contract with WWE in their NXT brand. That obviously has not happened yet for her. But as far as an in-ring performer, I think Madison Rayne and Chelsea Green are up there, toe-to-toe, right? They're pretty much at the exact same level, at least in my view. It just so happens to be that Madison Rayne's time was a few years ago. Chelsea Green is on the upswing, and in my opinion, she has more of a chance of winning this match than Madison Rayne does. Following that up, I think it's Britt Baker. Now, gonna be honest with you, just like in the past video with Joey Janela, Britt Baker is someone who is not contracted with any of the big wrestling organizations in the world, so I haven't seen much from her. I have heard her name amongst the independent wrestling darlings and amongst the best women's wrestlers who do not have a contract with WWE. So, that's pretty much what I've heard. I haven't seen her wrestle, but on that basis alone, being that she's an independent wrestling darling, I'd have to go with her having some of the higher probabilities of winning this match. And finally, the woman that I think is going to win this match because of the history, because of the talent, because of the charisma, because of her name, because of all of those things combined and even more, I've got to go with the one, the only Tessa Blanchard. She is just that talented in ring wise, that talented in charisma, that talented in mic skills, and she has that name, that history, that third generation superstar just screams at you. And I think Tessa Blanchard, at least to me, has the highest possibility of winning this match. And, as far as that, it could be a coin toss. For all I know, it could be Britt Baker who wins the match. But like I said, I do not know as much as I would love to know about Britt Baker. So in this case, I have to go with Tessa Blanchard. But that's my prediction. That's who I think is going to win. That's who I think has the most chances of winning this four-way match. What are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to win? And do you disagree with me on some of the stances I took on some of these ladies on if they can win or not? Leave your comments, your opinions, your thoughts on the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are covering here news, topics, discussion, debates, previews, all that kind of good stuff. And all week, this week, leading up to the All In event on Saturday night, we are covering and previewing every single match on the main card. So check those videos out later in the week. That's it for me. Till next time.